Okay, gut health 101. Where do we start? Let's talk a little bit about it. So, I always explain your gut as like a garden, okay? And so when I think about we're hitting spring here in Tennessee, I know there's a couple people from Minnesota on here. Minnesota people, we were in the 80s today. So come on down to Tennessee. But when I talk about our garden, if it's springtime and we're working on planting our garden, first thing we need to do is we need to rip up all the weeds. Then we need to check out the soil. Do we need to fertilize the soil? Do we need to add good nutrients to the soil? What do we need to do to prep that soil to plant the seeds? Then we start planting our seeds. Now, if I want watermelons, I don't plant radishes, right? If I want pumpkins, I don't plant lettuce seeds, right? So it's very important that we're planting the right seeds in the right garden with the right soil to make everything grow. So if you didn't know this, our gut has over 100 trillion bacteria. So that's more than the stars in the galaxy. And 70% of our immune system lives in our digestive tract. And so this is why what you eat truly is going to determine your health. I had a little boy come into the office today, and first thing he was all snotty, all the different things. And first thing I told him is I said, hey, no sugar the next couple days. And his mom was like, see, I told you. Yes, our immune system, all those good things that help keep us healthy are made in the gut from those healthy bacteria. And so we want to make sure that that is in balance. So we want to make sure that our garden is exactly where it needs to be. So, as many of you know, our gut influences a ton of different things. The thing we probably talk about most in the office is your mental health and your mood. Serotonin, GABA, dopamine, those things that make us happy-go-lucky, all those things are coming from our gut. And if our gut is out of balance, those emotions are out of balance. Immune system function, like I just had said, skin health. One of the things that I'm going to add tidbits in as I go through this, just for things that I talk about in clinic. If you're anyone that has any sort of acne, rosacea, any sort of rashes, histamine responses on your skin, all of those things correlate to another organ inside of your body. If you haven't Googled that already, where you look up the Chinese medicine facial mapping, where it'll show you where if your acne lies in different spaces on your skin, exactly what area of your body is dysfunctional that's maybe causing those symptoms. So our skin health is a huge one that is going to be determined by our gut. Skin is a lipid bilayer. What that means is fat, and we're going to talk a little bit about that further in these slides. But if we're not absorbing healthy fat, we are not going to have healthy skin. So that's where that gut-skin barrier sort of connection happens. Energy levels, we're going to talk a little bit about B12 deficiency and where that comes from, and it comes from lack of stomach acid. That can totally determine your energy. Sleep quality, this has been something, I don't know how many of you have heard of like the Oura Ring. So we have a lot of people on our staff that have the Oura Ring or different forms of this. One of the things that I have found is that when my patients, myself, my husband, when we eat dinner too late or eat a carbohydrate meal too late, our heart rate does not come down until later into our sleeping hours. And because of that, we don't end up getting good sleep until 1, 2, sometimes 3 hours into our sleep. So this is something that's important when you're talking about getting good sleep and how it correlates with the gut. Hormone balance, we'll talk a little bit more about that. When it comes to signs of bad like gut health, this was hard because I could say that almost any sign or symptom is probably a sign of bad like gut health. Digestive issues, this is the bloating after meals, gas, irregular bowel movements. The average human should be pooping 2 to 3 times a day. We always celebrate at least once a day, but we want that to be up a little bit higher. You have to remember that your poop is toxins. So if you are not going and eliminating those toxins, those things are getting reabsorbed back into the bloodstream. And I'll show you a picture of how close those two things are interacting. Unexplained fatigue. If you're not absorbing your nutrients, you're going to be more exhausted. Food sensitivities. So this is something that we check in office. Food sensitivities are technically not normal, okay? So this is an immune response where your body is actually attacking that food that you're eating. And so we want to figure out, why is that happening? Why is your body attacking itself? Now, food sensitivities are different than food allergies. Food allergies are going to be more that anaphylaxis. We're looking at that food that's causing mass amounts of inflammation. That inflammation is then causing gut dysfunction. So skin problems, acne, we talked about that, mood changes, and then that frequent illness. Again, for anyone who's jumped on, we're jumping right in. We have lots to talk about. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the chat box so we can chat about them at the end. Hmm. Okay, so many people have heard about how your gut is your second brain. There is 50 million neurons, 30 million neurotransmitters that basically communicate between our gut and our brain. So this is through the vagus nerve. Our vagus nerve activates our rest, digest, and heal. And I'll talk about this again at the end. But if we are in a state of fight or flight, which is stress, we are not in a state of rest and digest. This one I always talk about with a lot of, I can't see if there's any men on here, but I always joke with this about husbands um, who take the longest time in the bathroom. If we're not in a state of rest, digest, and heal, our bowels don't move very quickly. And so we need to be able to have that time. Yes, even the moms who are running between all these different things or women heading off to work, we need that time to sort of settle down our brain so we can get into that state of rest and digest and heal. This is why so many people start their day with a healthy bowel movement. 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep, great parasympathetic healing. Start your day with a bowel movement. So, this second brain concept reduces inflammation throughout the body, controls your digestion speed and efficiency, regulates anxiety, depression, immune system, and cognitive function. So let's keep going. Cool. So when we're talking about your, I got to move all my windows here. When I'm talking about your different layers of the gut, okay? So we have four main layers that help protect us. So again, your feces, your poop is waste. It's toxins, okay? So we want to make sure the toxins stay out and the nutrients come in. So these four critical layers are labeled up there on the screen, and you can kind of see what that looks like based off of the little what they call microvilli, the little like fingers that are coming out of the skin layer. These little areas is where we're absorbing our nutrients, okay? So you're talking all your vitamins, your minerals, your magnesium, your B vitamins, A, D, K, all of those good things are coming in that first innermost layer. The next area of that is that blood vessel layer. What we know is that when we have proper blood flow to our any area of our body, it means we're going to have healing. Okay. This is also where we create some of the mucus, which is going to help with that motility and keep things moving. We then have our muscle layer. This layer is what's going to create what's called peristalsis, that movement, that contraction in the intestines to keep things moving and keeps things from getting backed up. Now, the fun fact I always like to throw out in clinic is that 33% of our poop never leaves our body. So I'm always hoping that that 33% is new poop. Okay. We don't want some of that stuff that's been in there for potentially weeks, months, years. We want that to be new stuff. So that muscle layer is super important. This is where we might talk about, especially with our kids that come into the office, using either Epsom salt baths or magnesium lotion rubbed directly on the belly. The I love you rubs, if you know what that is, where you kind of move the intestines with your hand over those muscles just to get that stuff moving out of the body. And then the last layer, again, more blood vessels, nerves, and just kind of keeps and holds everything in place so that things aren't falling out of your body. So this picture right here, I can't see my notes on the top, but we'll kind of run through it here. So you can see the little areas of the small intestines, right? Okay, so you can see how at the top they have things labeled toxins, microorganisms, gluten. This is also where your nutrients are going to be. So if they're passing through, on the left side of the screen, you're going to see very healed, very strong, tight junctions. This is what's going to keep the toxins out, but those little fingers are going to help absorb the nutrients in. Now, when we get exposed to toxins, when we get exposed to stress for long periods of time, now toxins could be poor foods, processed foods, things like that. It could be food sensitivities, that inflammation response, or it could be things such as bacteria, viruses, food poisoning. When we get exposed to these things over time without being addressed, we start to get what's called a leaky gut. Now, over the years, science has continued to basically verify that this is the case, that we do create what's called these spaces in these tight junctions. So on the right side of the screen, you can see where that space between each of those places has now opened, which is allowing the toxins to get in. This is that whole system of how leaky gut has come to be. With that blood stream right below the surface of these cells, you are now allowing these toxins to get inside the body. So if you look in that um, bloodstream area that's below the cells, you can see that in that space is gluten. Okay. When we talk about gluten sensitivity and when we talk about celiac disease, okay, this is an immune response. This is your body attacking itself. So when gluten seeps through the junctions, gets into the bloodstream, our body creates an immune response, a white blood cell against it. I'm a little curious of how much to even say on this because it is recorded, but we have actually seen that if you can heal those leaky guts areas and calm down the immune response, we've seen celiac disease go away in our office because all of this is coming into play with supporting your body, keeping your bloodstream clean, and keeping your body healthy. When we're getting those toxins into that area, we're going to start seeing malabsorption or nutrients that aren't getting absorbed, excuse me, those autoimmune responses, your body creating or attacking against these things. And that's where your immune system goes down and potentially cognitive decline. So, this is a really good picture to see how quickly something can go from healthy to unhealthy, and then see how it can go to brain issues, skin issues, and so much more through the bloodstream. Questions, comments, concerns? Okay, so what damages your gut lining? Okay, of course we know inflammatory foods. These are going to be your any sort of your sugars, your carbohydrates, your processed foods. Excess sugar. We have good bugs and we have bad bugs in your gut. Too much of these things are going to create too many bad bugs and not enough good bugs. Okay. Big hit right now with a lot of people, if you haven't heard about it, is ditching seed oils. Seed oils are very overly processed and are going to increase the inflammation and damage that gut lining, creating more space in those gap junctions. Gluten. Gluten is one of those ones that the reason this is coming up is because gluten has been genetically modified over the last, I don't know the years, 50, 100 years, something like that. This is why so many people can go over to Europe and continue to eat the wheat there because their gluten is not been genetically modified. So to maintain the amount of people who are consuming white flour, we have had to change what the product looks like to be able to continue to plant in that same soil. So gluten now is become more inflammatory than healthy, and that's why it's going to potentially damage your gut lining. Lifestyle factors, chronic stress would probably be one of the biggest reasons we see gut health issues in our office. Um, Stress, just if we're in a state of stress, we're not in a state of digest. We talked a little bit about with the Oura rings, right? Poor sleep. That means your heart rate's not coming down, your HRV is not going up. That can cause more time in stress and less in digest. Lack of exercise. This could be a whole nother talk in itself. We have a lymphatic system, and our lymphatic system is our toxin system. So if you think of your blood vessels going all through your body, our arteries, our veins, those things have a pump called our heart. Okay, that pump moves things up, down, right, left. Now, our lymphatic system is where our blood pushes all the toxins. So, the thing that's hard about our lymphatic system is there is no pump. This is why we have lymphatic massage. This is why we have dry brushing, rebounding. If we don't, excuse me, another way to move our lymphatic system is exercise. If we don't have exercise and we don't do any of those other supports, those toxins are just going to get put back into that bloodstream and cause all those issues we just talked about. Environmental toxins. This is a fun fact. Anything that touches your skin is absorbed into your bloodstream within 20 to 30 seconds. So if you're using self-tanner, makeup, lotion, even going to someone's house and using a hand soap that might have toxins in it. These things are just going to get all the way into that bloodstream, which means they're going to get to your gut and affect your gut health. Medications, we know antibiotics can cause gut stress. Our doctors tell us when they prescribe them, this may cause constipation or diarrhea. Again, this goes back to you have good bugs and you have bad bugs. We want to make sure that we are keeping the good bugs up and only addressing the bad bugs. Antibiotics kill off all the bugs, and we need some of those good bugs to survive. NSAIDs, these things affect our gut lining. Acid reducers, again, we'll talk about this once or twice more. Our body needs stomach acid. Okay, stomach acid is in the stomach and it's going to help break down food. B12, which is a great source of energy, this also helps you sleep soundly through the night, is absorbed in the stomach. And so if you are missing stomach acid because you're taking acid blockers, Tums, Pepsid. I'm trying to think of other names for these. You are going to slowly deplete your B12, and that is going to affect your energy. So we want to make sure we actually get to the root cause of why you're having acid reflux, which is actually a lack of stomach acid. Heal that so you can absorb your B12. Um, Signs of gut lining damage, food sensitivities. Like I said, these are not normal, right? These are showing me those gap junctions are open and you are allowing toxins in food to get through so your body can create an immune response. Any digestive issues, bloating, cramping, constipation, diarrhea, fatigue. If you're not absorbing your nutrients correctly, we're going to see it in your energy levels. Skin problems, autoimmune conditions, again, at bloodstream, right? That is where everything takes place. When the toxins get through the gut barrier and get into the bloodstream, we see the body respond. Nutrient deficiencies, there's many different ways to test for nutrient deficiencies. You can do it with your traditional blood work. You can do it with a hair mineral analysis. If you're seeing really significant nutrient deficiencies, something's probably going on in the gut and we need to figure out what it is. So why does this matter? Again, I know I'm moving really quickly through all of this. A healthy gut lining means your immune system is going to be strong. Okay. This protects against autoimmune conditions. Anyone that comes into our office with an autoimmune, I always feel a little like they're a little annoyed with me because I'm never like, hey, let's fix your Hashimoto's. I'm always like, hey, how's your gut? Right? That's a great place to start. Proper nutrient absorption, mental health, that serotonin, that dopamine, that GABA production, and then just overall reduces the inflammation of the body. So it's very, very, very important. So gut lining support. Now, I'm going to shout out products because like I know there's people on here that don't live here. This is all just like it's kind of hard to do over the Zoom, right? So we're just going to talk about it. You can always reach out to us. If you're a patient of ours, chat with us about how we can get you on the proper products. Okay. So gut lining support. There's a couple things that are on this page. Okay. We call it the 4 R's when we're trying to heal the gut lining. You remove food sensitivities. Okay. You remove infections. You repair the gut lining and then you replace with good bugs. So in your upper right-hand corner, there's 2 products. This is called DHIST and NAC. DHIST and NAC are natural antihistamines. I want you to imagine all those little squiggly fingers that show up in the gut lining, okay? And I want you to imagine they got a really bad sunburn, okay? That is how histamine attacks our gut. Now you're going to put things in such as crackers, seeds, leafy greens that are just going to rub up against that sunburn. And that does not feel good. That creates bloat, that creates cramping, and sometimes constipation. So DHIST and NAC are a great way for us to put that histamine response out. I always say when patients come into the office with allergies, I go, allergies are a symptom. They're not a cause. We need to figure out why you're having high histamine, and it always comes from the gut. So these 2 products would be great for removing the inflammation or the histamine. Glutagenics, the bigger container in the front, that is going to be your gut healing, like lining healing. Okay. This is going to have aloe in it. That's going to have glutamine, just like you would put aloe on your sunburnt skin. We can take it internally to heal all those little fingers that have that high histamine response. So this is really good if you had to take an antibiotic. This is really good if you had food poisoning, just to kind of soothe that gut lining. Now, the 2 products on the left side, the Candibactin BR and AR, we're very careful with these because these are antimicrobials. Now, antimicrobials, they kill things off. And so you have to be careful because they're going to kill off not just the good bugs, but they're going to kill off, or excuse me, not just the bad bugs, but some of the good bugs as well. So we use these very carefully through muscle testing, figuring out which one do you need, how much of it do you need, and for how long to get the body back into balance. And then on the right side is your Ultra4 Balance. This product is going to be just a very general, everyday probiotic that we recommend for a lot of our patients. Now, I wanted to throw this in here. Keratosis pilaris. We always call it chicken skin. It's like the bumpies on the back of the arms, if anyone has those or if your kid has them, okay? All of that's coming down to those little fingers in your gut lining being full of histamine and full of inflammation, okay? When they're full of histamine and they're full of inflammation, they're not going to absorb your fat-soluble vitamins. Now, your fat-soluble vitamins are usually vitamins A, D, K, and E. And these 4 vitamins are really hard to absorb regularly. And then if you add on top of it, food sensitivities and all those other things, it's really hard to absorb those. So getting that gut lining healed, like from the previous slide, but also calming down those food sensitivities, you could add in those fat soluble vitamins again, and you're actually going to start to see healing here. So, first recommendation I always give in our office is remove gluten, which is a really high histamine food, and add in emu oil. Emu oil is a food version of your fat soluble vitamins, A, D, K, and E. And then you can also do vitamin D in addition to that. So, keep going. Oh my goodness, I can't see the word at the top. I think is it bacteria? What's parasites? Which one is it, Lydia?
Parasites.
Thank you. Okay, so I don't know how to move it. Technology, guys. Okay, so parasites. So parasites are like a loaded thing. They're all over social media. They're all over TikTok, Instagram. I mean, if you Google it, you can find stuff of it. So basically what a parasite is, it's a bug or an organism that lives off the host. Okay, so they are actually attached to our gut lining and they are stealing all of our macro and micronutrients. Oh my goodness. It says I'm running out of time.
You're okay. You have 16 minutes.
Oh, okay. It just warns me. Oh my goodness. I told you it's gonna be too much for one. Um, they can be all sorts of different sizes, and they're usually acquired through food, water, dirt, or pets. So we see these a lot in little kids because they get dirt under their nails and then they put their hands in their mouth. Gardeners, but then like water in Mexico, not washing your strawberries enough, any of those things. Parasites, I like to throw this in, they're not all bad. Parasites help consume heavy metals. And so like pick your poison a little bit. If we have high heavy metals, but you have parasites, those parasites are keeping them contained so the metals aren't moving throughout the body. So have to be really careful with killing them off. We see key symptoms of it, weight challenges, digestive issues, fatigue after eating because they're stealing all the nutrients, skin issues, iron deficiency. Parasites love iron, travel related stomach problems, and chronic illness. This is our parasite cleanse. I'm going to send you guys the slides. So you're going to have all of this. It's written out for you really well of which supplements to take when. We recommend doing it 5 days over the full moon. And there's 3 levels that you would do over 3 months. So month one would be simple. The next one would be a little bit harder. And the third one would be kind of like the final straw to kick everything out. You do 5 days. Your middle day would be the full moon. So you do 2 days before the full moon, the day of the full moon, and 2 days after the full moon. Okay, SIBO, small intestine bacteria overgrowth. Like I said, we have good bugs and we have bad bugs, and they're meant to be in certain places. If we have too many of the bad bugs in the wrong place, we end up with small intestine bacteria overgrowth. So this disrupts that nutrient absorption and it creates fermentation. So this is a lot of where we're seeing the bloating, we're seeing the gas, we're seeing the belching. And it's actually a very specific test that is done to test for this, but we can do it with muscle testing. So just think of like your beer, your kombucha, those bubblies, but happening inside the body. Um, Usually with this, you see bloating after meals because it's fermenting, upper gut discomfort, so sort of right under the rib cage, gas, belching, carbohydrate intolerance because you feel so bad when you eat those carbs, B12 deficiency, and then feeling full quickly. And this just goes back to that stomach acid is actually too low with people that have acid issues. We actually want to increase that stomach acid and getting their body absorbing again. And we use a product in office called Metagest or HCl from Metagenics. This is my go-to for if you do have SIBO. You do both the Candibactin BR and AR to balance the blood sugar and kill off any of the bad bugs. You take a really specific probiotic to help bring those bugs back into balance. And then the diet that's specific for SIBO is called a low FODMAP diet. And you can find a lot of information about that online. Okay, Candida, yeast overgrowth. So these are my people who crave sugar, have a lot of brain fog, have like a white coating on their tongue when they wake up, or have like indents on each side of their tongue when they wake up. This is it usually that they're have too much yeast in their bodies. Common is recurrent yeast infections, joint pain, chronic fatigue, digestive issues. Yeast is good. Don't try to kill off all your yeast. We want just the right amount of it. If it happens to be too much, that's when we see issues with this. So I wrote a couple common things. If you eat too much sugar, too much stress, antibiotic use, um, birth control pills cause a lot of yeast issues, weakened immune system, or blood sugar issues. Candida is very similar. Now, the only difference is we either use the Candibactin AR and BR or we use the Parafor. You don't need both of them. We do muscle testing to figure out which one is best, and then that very specific probiotic as well. The diet that goes along with killing off candida is either carnivore, keto, or just cutting all carbohydrates together. We talked a little bit about this. What causes gut dysbiosis? Low stomach acid, weakened immune system, poor diet, stress, antibiotic use, or potentially that travel exposure. In our office, we use muscle testing to test for everything. It helps us just to get a more accurate picture of what's going on in the body. You cannot see parasites in a stool test. And it's hard to check for yeast in any sort of stool test because we naturally have it. So muscle testing is really going to help us figure out in your body what is too high and what is too low. And then we can check those food sensitivities. So your food sensitivities change every 4 to 6 weeks. So doing these by blood, you would have to redo the blood test every 4 to 6 weeks to see an accurate picture. Where with muscle testing, it's much easier at each appointment for us to check which foods need to be changed. Constipation, if you need temporary relief, these are our two go-tos. Bowel movers from Cellcore. It's a great thing to help kind of support pushing things through the bowels. You can start with just one a day and work your way up to 3. Same thing with magnesium citrate. Start with 1, move up to 3. Magnesium citrate has no nutritional benefit really other than to move the bowels. Now, bowel mover is going to have your glutamine, your aloe vera, those things that are going to work on healing your gut lining. So that would be my preference if you're dealing with constipation. Biggest thing with all of this is, we want to figure out the why. I love this picture of the 2 fish tanks because you have 2 options in this scenario. If the fish is sick, you could medicate the fish or you could clean the tank. What we put into our body, what we put on our body is the key to maintaining our gut health. So once you get things cleaned up, it's doing everything right. It's eating the right food, nourishing your body, keeping your stress low, maintaining exercise that's going to keep the fish tank clean and keep the fish healthy. Last couple little tidbits here. Supplements shouldn't be bought off Amazon. We've had quite a few patients lately coming in with supplements that are fraudulent and they're from the manufacturer. So we no longer recommend buying any of your supplements off of Amazon. We can help. We have a storefront on our website, or we can help you guide you to a place where you can order those. Our supplements that we recommend in office are they're pharmaceutical grade, and so they're checked for purity and potency, and that's why we recommend them. If you're buying them at any sort of drugstore or anything like that, we can't promise that they're going to be of quality that they say they will be. The FDA says you only have to have 10% of what's on the label in the product. So if you have a bottle that says 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, according to the FDA, in the entire bottle, they only need 10% of the vitamin C in there. That is why we recommend the supplements we do, because we know they are the quality that we bought them for. Again, always think of your garden, plant the right seeds, till the garden, make sure the soil's good, build it up in the right way so that that garden is sustainable. And then rest and digest versus fight or flight. You need to take time to poop. You need to slow down in the morning, breathe, take a minute, and allow your body to take that time to digest. Well, if anyone has questions, you can always send us an email. If you're a patient, bring up any of this stuff in your next appointment. Let's test it, let's talk about it, and let's come up with a plan so you guys feel really confident in your gut health.